I'm so relieved The Last of Us. Season 2's finale left out one of Ellie's most shocking kills from the game. There's one thing HBO didn't want you to see, and it's the one moment that broke players more than Joel's death itself. A moment so controversial. It divided an entire fandom. It wasn't a murder. It wasn't a betrayal. It was a dog. And the showrunners knew if they included this scene, millions would never see Ellie the same way again. But why? Visual, a dark hallway, footsteps echo, a shadow shifts, a dog growls. Music rises in suspense, then cuts abruptly. The Season 2 finale of The Last of Us pushed boundaries. A pregnant woman's final breath, torture, betrayal, grief. But even after all that, there's one death they cut, not because it wasn't important, but because it was too real, too raw, too dangerous for TV. What you're about to hear is what really happened inside the aquarium. Not the version HBO gave you, but the forbidden version. The one gamers still whisper about to this day. Visual. Aquarium doors slowly open. A shadowy figure steps inside. Before we dive into the blood-soaked truth, ask yourself, is there such a thing as justified violence? Is survival enough to excuse anything? Because this isn't just another post-apocalyptic drama. This is a morality test. One where no one, not even Ellie, walks away clean. If you believe the truth should never be hidden, you need to subscribe right now. This channel exposes what the media won't. One forbidden secret at a time. Now, let's go deeper. In the show's finale, Ellie hunts down Abby. Her friends die one by one, some by her hand, some by fate. Owen, Mel, Jesse. But what if I told you the real emotional climax wasn't any of them? What if the single most painful moment involved someone who couldn't speak, couldn't fight back, someone who didn't choose sides? Visual, flashback to Owen tossing a ball. A dog leaps with joy. Her name was Alice, Abby's dog. Fiercely loyal, trained to protect. A good girl, always. In the game, Alice greets you with wagging tail. In combat, she defends her people without question. And when Ellie sneaks into the aquarium, she's the only one standing between vengeance and innocence. Music slows to a heartbeat. Deep bass thump. In the game, the vent collapses. Ellie tumbles out. Alice growls. She lunges. And then, game button prompt flashes. Press square. The player has no choice. Stab again, and again, and again. Alice dies. Blood pools, and silence follows. Visual. Blood drips from Ellie's switchblade. Her hand shakes. It was the most heartbreaking kill in the entire series, and HBO cut it out. Why? Music builds. Suspense returns. Because no matter how many humans die, no matter how many necks are snapped or bombs thrown, nothing makes audiences flinch like the death of a dog. Even in a world where humanity is dying, it's the animal who reminds us what we've become. And Ellie became something else that night. Visual, Abby in the future, calling for Alice. No response. But that's just the beginning, because what happens after the kill is even more shocking. What HBO didn't show was the twist no one saw coming, a twist so brutal it made players drop the controller and question everything they thought they knew about Ellie. In the game, Alice dies quickly, but the impact lingers, not just because she was loyal, not just because she trusted Abby, but because after she's gone, you see her again. Visual. Abby, kneeling beside Alice, whispering her name. Game shifts perspective. You are Abby now, and Alice, she's alive, happy, still playing fetch. That's right, after the murder, the game rewinds. Suddenly, you're Abby, and Alice is still breathing. The same dog you were forced to kill now walks by your side, wags her tail, barks when you whistle. Eerie music, tinged with sadness. And in that moment, you realize something terrifying. You didn't kill a threat. You killed someone's best friend, someone's family. Visual, Abby throwing a ball. Alice dashes after it, tail wagging in slow motion. Alice was more than just a character. She was the game's trap, a mirror held up to you, the player. Because you stabbed her, you pressed the button, you were Ellie, and Ellie was you. Visual, controller vibrating, square button flashing. The developers made sure you had no choice, no way around it, no stealth route, no mercy. You kill Alice, or the story ends. And that's where things got controversial. Music shifts to tension-filled underscore with subtle ticking. Players raged, forums exploded, Reddit threads lit up with fury. Some said, it's just a dog. Others said, no, this was different. Because in a world overflowing with death, Alice reminded us of life, innocence, loyalty. Visual, close-up of Alice's eyes, calm, trusting, seconds before the blade strikes. Killing her didn't feel heroic, it didn't feel like survival. It felt like something had been taken from you. And that was intentional. The Last of Us Part 2 was never meant to make you feel good. It was designed to make you feel complicit. And that's exactly why HBO backed off. Because what works in gameplay could destroy a TV character forever. Visual. Ellie standing over Owen and Mel's bodies, blood on her hands, breathing heavy. They pushed it far. Ellie killed a pregnant woman. She tortured Nora until she died. But Alice, she crossed an invisible line. The kind of line TV executives fear. The kind of line that fractures audiences permanently. Sharp violin sting. Silence. Because if Ellie stabs a man, we cheer. If she shoots a traitor, we understand. But if she stabs a dog, we turn on her. And HBO wasn't willing to take that risk. But here's the real secret, the one no one talks about. Visual, Abby returning to the aquarium. Her eyes search. The room is silent. In the game, Abby finds Alice's corpse. She doesn't say a word, just kneels, just stares. The pain is unbearable. And Ellie, she never mentions the dog, not once. Because deep down, she knows. Visual, flashbacks overlap, Alice playing fetch, Alice lunging, Alice dying. She knows she crossed a line she can't come back from. Not even Joel would have done that. But here's where the truth really breaks open, because Alice's death didn't just divide gamers, it destroyed them. The emotional whiplash of being forced to kill an innocent, then play fetch with her like nothing happened, that wasn't a design flaw. It was Neil Druckmann's most dangerous narrative weapon, and it was aimed directly at you. In a world filled with infected monsters, why did one loyal dog break us? Why did Alice's death trigger more outrage than any human slaughter in the series? Visual, flash cuts of clickers, runners, gunfire. Cut to Alice's peaceful eyes, then to her lifeless body. Because Alice wasn't a casualty. She was a symbol, a line the game forced you to cross, to prove a point the show never dared explore. Tense music begins to rise, low synth creeping upward. That there are no heroes in this world, only survivors. Ellie is not a savior. She's not a victim. She's not even a warrior. She is a weapon shaped by grief. And Alice's death is the moment the blade turned inward. Visual, Ellie walking out of the aquarium. Her hands are shaking, covered in blood. After Owen and Mel, after Alice, Ellie doesn't scream, doesn't cry. She just breaks, quietly, silently. Because for the first time, she sees herself. Piano enters. Slow, melancholic notes echo between silences. We weren't supposed to cheer for Ellie anymore. That was the point. Alice was the proof that Ellie had gone too far, that she'd become what she hated most. And the only reason HBO left it out was because they couldn't risk you turning against her too soon. Visual, Abby petting Alice during a flashback. The two sharing a moment of peace before the storm. Because if you see Ellie stab a dog in episode 6, do you really root for her in episode 7? Or do you start asking dangerous questions? Questions HBO doesn't want to answer. Like, if Ellie is the villain, who is the hero? If violence creates only more violence, what was Joel even fighting for? And if love made Ellie do all this, was it really love? Or was it something darker? Music begins looping a haunting 4-note pattern, hypnotic and unresolved. In the game, the Alice sequence is sandwiched between two acts of horror, the torture of Nora and the shooting of Owen and Mel. But only one of those acts turns the camera back on you. Only one forces you to stab, to press the button, to finish the job yourself. The developers knew that watching violence isn't enough anymore. You had to feel responsible for it. Visual, controller shaking. Square, square, square. Alice whimpers. And after that, you weren't just playing Ellie. You were carrying her guilt. A guilt the show refuses to show. A guilt it hides, sanitizes, censors. But why? Because The Last of Us on TV isn't just a story, it's a product, a brand. And Ellie, she's the face of it. And in television, you don't let your star stab a dog. Visual, interview clip of Craig Mazin. He jokes, you only get one dog murdering show a lifetime. Funny, except the joke is hiding something deadly serious. They knew showing that scene would create backlash, not just from viewers, but from sponsors, from media outlets, from Hollywood itself. Because in entertainment, the rules are clear. Kill as many people as you want, but don't touch the dog. So HBO cut the scene, erased Alice, sanitized the blood, protected the brand. But in doing so, they also erased you. The player, the guilty one, the person who pressed that square button 3 times in a row. Music fades to silence. A single heartbeat sound echoes. To forget the only kill that made you feel something other than thrill, other than power. The only kill that made you question who the real monster was. But what if I told you Alice was never just a dog? What if her death wasn't just about Ellie, but about the player's soul? You think Alice was just a dog? That scene was just a gimmick? You're not seeing the truth. Alice's death wasn't random. It wasn't even about emotional shock. It was a cipher. A coded message from the game's creators to the players who thought they understood what this world was about. Visual, Abby feeding Alice. A soft moment in a brutal world. Before you kill Alice, you don't know her. But after you kill her, the game makes you care. You spend hours with her, watching her wag her tail, chase balls, sleep beside Abby's bunk. You learn she was the first to run toward danger, not because she was violent, but because she trusted her people. Visual, Abby calls Alice, and the dog runs into frame, tail wagging. You murdered innocence, then had to live inside its grief. That wasn't gameplay, that was punishment, and it was deliberate. Music rises, sharp and eerie, like a puzzle piece snapping into place. Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog didn't want you to win, they wanted you to reflect, and Alice was their most dangerous mirror, because once you saw what you destroyed, you were forced to question whether your revenge, your justice, your mission was ever worth it. And worse, if you even cared before you saw the consequences. The TV show couldn't handle that, not because it was too violent, but because it was too honest. Visual, the quiet aftermath of the aquarium raid. No dog, just bodies. Without Alice, the finale feels clean, controlled, like Ellie's worst moment is still somehow understandable. But add Alice back in, suddenly Ellie's not a tragic anti-hero, she's a warning, a symbol of what vengeance really turns you into. Visual, controller shaking violently, square, square, square. When the player is forced to kill Alice, they don't feel triumphant, they feel hollow. They stop seeing Ellie as a brave survivor and start seeing her for what she is becoming, something unstoppable, and not in a good way. A black hole, consuming everything that touches her. Sharp drop in music, silence, and this is where it gets darker, because some players killed Alice and felt nothing. No regret, no sorrow, just progress. And the game noticed. Visual, loading screen text, they didn't love her like I did. The game begins to subtly respond. You notice Abby's grief is heavier, Alice's empty dog bed, no music, no closure. It's almost as if the world itself is grieving what you did, silently, passively, forever. Visual. Abby picking up Alice's collar in the aquarium, her face unreadable. This is the hidden layer, the forbidden layer, the part of The Last of Us that never gets talked about. Because Alice's death wasn't just a gut punch, it was a morality lock, a gate. Once you pass through it, you stop asking if Ellie's path is righteous. You start asking, can she still be saved? Soft piano loop returns, cold and repetitive. TV Ellie didn't kill Alice, so TV viewers never had to ask that question. They never saw the line she crossed in the shadows. And so, they still believe maybe she's a hero, maybe she's just broken, maybe it's all justified. But for players, that illusion died. The moment the blade sank into Alice's ribs. There's a scene in The Last of Us Part 2 that haunts players, but it's not in the finale, not even close. It's a scene most forget, until they try to sleep. No one talks about it, because it's not cinematic, not filled with epic music or dramatic showdowns. It's quiet, small, forgotten, but it's where Ellie stops being a victim, and becomes something else entirely. In this scene, Ellie hunts a woman named Leah. She's one of Abby's crew, a minor character. Not a killer, not a leader, just someone in the way. Ellie doesn't interrogate her, doesn't plead. She shoots first, point blank, mid-sentence. No threat, no time to speak, just death. A sudden gunshot breaks the silence, echoing too long. And then comes the silence. That's the part HBO couldn't use. Visual, Ellie stands over Leah's body. No music, just wind blowing outside. Blood dripping, a long, brutal pause. Because there's no reaction, no relief, no emotion. It's not a battle, it's not justice. It's execution. And the look in Ellie's eyes, empty? This is the real Ellie. Not the guitar-playing survivor, not the grieving daughter, but the girl who keeps going, kill after kill, not because she has to, but because she can't stop. Visual, Ellie looting Leah's body. Searching for ammo, not even looking at her face. And the show, cut that too. Because how do you justify a main character who no longer needs a reason to kill? Music tightens. Now there's a soft ticking sound underneath, a clock running out. After Leah, the killings change. No more moral dilemmas, no more hesitation. Ellie walks into rooms and clears them like a machine. The girl who once wept for Joel now doesn't flinch at torturing a hospital worker to death. What does that say about who she's become? And this is the moment the show never touches, the psychological death of Ellie. Not her physical scars, but the erosion of her soul. Visual, Ellie silently stabbing a man in the throat, hiding the body without blinking. No remorse, no humanity, just action, just movement. Alice's death opened the door. Leah's death closed it behind her. From here on out, Ellie is no longer a girl with a purpose. She's an echo, repeating Joel's mistake, becoming the monster she swore to destroy. The music fades out to a deep, trembling drone. And that's why these moments never made it to air. Because they don't build sympathy, they don't build tension, they build truth. The kind of truth that shatters audience loyalty. The kind of truth that forces you to admit, maybe Joel was never the bad guy. Maybe Ellie was. There's one scene the developers debated cutting, one kill that almost never made it into the final version of The Last of Us Part 2. Not because it was unnecessary, but because it was too much. The team at Naughty Dog knew what they were doing. They weren't just telling a story, they were dissecting morality, exposing the darkest urges of their characters and their players. But in this one scene, even the creators broke down. This was the interrogation. You remember Joel's technique. 2 points, 1 map. If the answers don't match, the pain begins. But when Ellie does it, it's worse. She tortures a man who can't even speak anymore. She hits him, again and again, until his head splits open. You're not asked to stop, there is no choice, the camera doesn't flinch. This moment almost didn't ship. Test audiences reported emotional exhaustion. One developer reportedly walked out of the voiceover session, but they kept it because they knew this wasn't a game about redemption anymore. It was about honesty, and honestly, Ellie had become a monster. Visual. Rain drips down Ellie's face. Her hands tremble. The man is dead. She gets nothing from him. No map, no truth, just silence. And that was the point. She didn't get closer to Abby, didn't learn anything new, didn't unlock a clue or save a friend. She just killed, because pain was the only thing she had left. The show avoided this scene. Of course it did. Because how do you market that? How do you write a trailer around your lead character brutalizing a helpless man for information that never comes? You don't. You sanitize. You erase. You pretend the darkness has boundaries. Dark ambient tones rise, mechanical and cold. But the game doesn't let you pretend. You watch Ellie kill, then walk away, alone, broken. No closer to justice, no closer to peace, just deeper into the void. Visual, Ellie walking through the snow, the man's blood still on her hands. This is the moment where even loyal fans started to ask, what are we doing? What is this revenge story becoming? And more importantly, what does it say about us, the ones pressing the buttons? That's the brilliance of Naughty Dog's design, and it's also why the TV adaptation could never go this far. Because in video games, you are the character, you're responsible. On TV, you're just a witness. You can look away, you can say, I wouldn't have done that. But the controller says otherwise. You didn't just watch Ellie torture him, you made it happen. And yet, the moment HBO chose to cut wasn't this one. It wasn't even the torture, or the body count, or the lies. It was Alice, the dog. Because somehow, the one creature in the entire game who loved without question was more dangerous to the audience's loyalty than any of Ellie's murders.